The Green Bay Packers hold on to win despite an uneven Jordan Love performance. They beat the Rams. They get out of LA with the win. That's what matters. We react live from SoFi after the game.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how the Green Bay Packers, they made it difficult, as they seem to want to do, but they come out with a win, a 24-19 win. They get 14 in the third quarter to take a 2-score lead. The Rams come back, get 6 in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, this game came down to a handful of plays that were and weren't made. And look, Jordan Love made some really nice throws in this game, had a really nice 3rd and long scramble in this game, but this was the Love roller coaster on full display. It was him living on that razor's edge. And after the game, I asked Matt LaFleur about this. I asked Jordan about this. And we're going to get to some of their answers tomorrow when we bring some of those clips in on the show. But what they said essentially was, you know, they want to be more consistent, but you also have to trust your playmakers. You have to trust Jayden Reed in a situation like that. Like that throw, not the smartest throw. He didn't quite think the corner was going to carry it the way that he did, but then the corner overran it, and it ends up being a perfect throw in terms of a decision. That's where you go, decision-wise, that's where you have to get the Aaron Rodgers, it's a bad decision or a bad throw, or sometimes both. That was I'll say an aggressive decision. I don't know about bad. It was an aggressive decision, to be sure. The play that Jordan Love tries to make in the end zone is wild. It's wild and should never be made, and he knows that. He told us after the game he was trying to get the ball out of bounds. He was not trying to make a throw to Tucker Kraft, even though it seemed like he was trying to make a throw to Tucker Kraft. He's trying to get the ball out of bounds there, but understands I got to get enough air on it so that it's not a safety. He's trying to make the play. And this is the line that I think the Packers are going to have to always ride with Jordan Love. There's going to be some variance there. Here's the thing, though. Last year, Jordan Love had a turnover-worthy play rate in the 2 and change sort of rate, 2.6, 2.8% sort of range. In 2 games this season, going into today, it was 4.8, almost double what it was last year. And then you have, I would say, at least 2 turnover-worthy plays. I think that Jayden Reed 53-yard completion is probably a turnover-worthy play. But he also made a couple really nice plays. The step up to get to Dontavian Wicks, a step up to get to Jayden Reed. I mentioned the scramble. He's also going to be that playmaker for this team. And when you listen to the guys in the locker room, and you listen to Jordan speaking after the game and Matt LaFleur speaking after the game, it is their ability to stay together, in part because they have Jordan Love from a leadership standpoint and from a, hey, we know what this guy is capable of standpoint, that they're able to come in and feel like they can win any one of these games. And so Jordan Love is still the straw that stirs the drink here. And ultimately the numbers are going to look nice. 15 of 26 for 224, 2 touchdowns. It's an okay day statistically, but the interception is an abomination. And there were a couple of missed throws. I asked Dontavian Wicks about some of those outbreaking routes. Why are they not able to get to some of that stuff? He said, that's just, Jordan's just working his way back. That's rust. That's going to come. It's going to be a part of the offense moving forward. I asked about under center play action. Where is some of that stuff? That's core to this offense. They just can't fully get to it right now because Jordan Love can't move, I think, the way that he wants to. He's going to say, I'm okay. He was like, we played in the gun more last week. He talked around why they weren't going under center more. He was saying, oh, it's part of the game plan, but it's like, this is a version of the defense you used to run and that a lot of the league has been running over the last couple of years. Under center play action is a big problem for that defense, and they didn't use it. And I have to believe a big reason for that is Jordan Love's mobility right now. Now, they just couldn't block for parts of this game. The first half of this game, they had issues in protection against a totally fine Rams pass rush. Like, we're not talking, Aaron Donald is not walking through that door. And Jared Verse is having a nice rookie season. Brandon Fisk having a nice rookie season. They have some guys, but Jordan also there were a couple of times when, like on a third down in the first half, he turns around off play action and there's immediately someone in his face. And there's just nothing as a quarterback that you can do about that. So what we've seen from Jordan Love now through 3 games, 3 of 5 that the Packers have played, is a player who has been inconsistent a little bit. And if you're going to be inconsistent as an aggressive thrower, like Matthew Stafford is, like he just sailed to Xavier McKinney. We'll get to Xavier McKinney because it's been really fun. I had a quick conversation in the locker room with Xavier McKinney, and he, by the way, he loves these other safeties, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams. He called them special. He's like, they're going to be special players. They allow him to do all of the different things that he's able to get to. But when you're Matthew Stafford and you can make every throw, sometimes you're going to get a little out of your skis. Ben Solak at ESPN calls it putting a lot of dip on your chip. You get a little aggressive. You get a lot of guac on that chip and you're like, ooh, this was maybe an aggressive choice. But if you can pull it off, it's pretty nice. I think you're always going to ride that lightning with Jordan Love. And I'm personally, as a quarterback watcher, I'm fine doing that. And maybe I've been Brett Favre pilled as someone who grew up and fell in love with football watching Brett Favre. But I just feel like I'd rather have the guy who's willing to make some mistakes because he wants to make the perfect throw down the field versus someone who just wants to check everything down, especially in a league right now where everyone is completing a higher percentage than ever, but at a lower ADOT than ever. No one wants to push the ball down the field. And the difference right now in the league are the offenses that can do that and the offenses that can't. Green Bay, they need to be better down to down, offensively and defensively. But they have the high-end talent. And Jordan Love, I count him among that high-end talent to create the big plays, the splash plays, the 65-yard catch and run. Tucker Kraft is now one of those capital D dudes on this football team. And we are learning, I think, with each passing week that who is and isn't a dude. Jaden Reed, certified dude. Dontavian Wicks, like, we're going to see 7 targets on the day and just 2 catches. Now, not all of that was his fault. I don't think he got very many catchable passes, but then you go back and you look at last week, a similar situation where he gets 13 targets, and only catches 5 balls because he probably dropped 2, maybe 3 of those. So they're going to get this worked out. But what we've seen through 3 games of Jordan Love is the highs and the lows of a player like him who can be really streaky. We've seen him for a stretch of 8 games be the best quarterback in the league. And down to down, play to play in the game, he's going to have those moments where he kind of short circuits trying to make the perfect play or trying to make a play when maybe it would be smarter to just say, just don't do that. Like, you don't ever want to be in the same conversation as Will Levis. And that was a Will Levis-esque interception. Avoid those, like modulate that back 10%, 15%. And we're talking about one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He already is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but I'm talking about like top 3 kind of quarterback. That's still out there for him in this offense. They played another kind of C+ game and won against a desperate team. You heard Travis Rodgers last week on our crossover show say this is a desperate football team. This is kind of their season for the LA Rams. And they came out with that desperation. They hit a big chunk play on a really well-designed tight end leak. They were throwing the jet sweeps and the special plays out there, and it didn't matter. It wasn't enough. But the Packers were able to do enough. They deserve credit for that. One of the big reasons, or let me say 2 of the big reasons, are 2 players who have, not just for the Packers, but in their careers, taken huge leaps this season. We'll talk about them next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. That's because LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. Because on LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an opportunity for you to be the best version of yourself. So it's Halloween season, right? What's something that scares you? Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us, but what are those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place, holding them back, holding ourselves back. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. It started on the first drive with Xavier McKinney and the pass breakup. Driving on that throw, he said there were times when Matthew Stafford was successfully able to look him off. Veteran quarterback, he's able to do that, manipulate safeties in a lot of different ways. But McKinney drives on that throw, makes the play. Later in the game, on a deep over route against single high, Matt Stafford is trying to fit that ball in over the top. And he sails it. And Xavier McKinney is this close. He's this close. For those of you not watching on YouTube, I'm putting my hands very close together. He's this close to getting it. And on the very next play, for whatever reason, they tried again. They must have thought that there was something in that look that they liked. And they tried again, and they get pressure this time, and Xavier McKinney is able to make that play. 5 interceptions in 5 games. He is right now, I don't know how you have someone on a defensive player of the year list and not have him at or near the top. And he is really holding this defense together, because again, down to down, play to play, they are not a consistent defense. They came in top 10 in EPA per rush. And, look, they didn't get gashed on the ground today. It seemed like at times they were getting gashed. 4.8 yards per carry on 28 totes. And Kyron Williams ultimately goes over 100 yards, but on 22 carries, like against a team that can and will run the ball, 4.6 yards per carry is not the end of the world. They held Matthew Stafford to 5.8 yards per attempt. That's the key number to me. Ultimately, under 5 yards per play for the Rams on the day. Held them. This is an explosive offense. Even with Demarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell and Colby Parkinson and you and me out there running routes with Matthew Stafford, this is still a well-designed offense with an elite quarterback and one of the best play callers and play designers in the league. And the Packers held them to 19 points. That is getting your job done. Like that, they did what they needed to do, and they got the big stop at the end that they needed. Now, was it closer than it needed to be? Yes. Was that partially on the offense when they had an opportunity late in the game to re-extend the lead to 2 scores, something the Vikings did to them last week? They cut it to 6. The Vikings go down, they kick a field goal. Packers had a chance to do that. They get a penalty. They run a screenplay, and all of a sudden they're out of field goal range when, a couple of runs before that penalty, and they could have been in position to really control the end of the game. But the reason they were in control of the game to start with was Tucker Kraft and the 66-yard touchdown that he scored. That was really the extender in all of this. He is a special player. The 66-yard touchdown was the one to give the Packers the lead. It was the diving running or receiver screen that got them into the end zone. And this is an offense that I think we can expect. We can expect he is a bigger part of this offense moving forward. I don't know how you can have an offense in Green Bay and not have him be a bigger part of it. Now, that's even being a little disingenuous because he was second on the team, third on the team in targets. This is one of those days where Dontavian Wicks, again, highly inefficient with the targets. Jaden Reed, 4 catches on 6 targets. Tucker Kraft, 4 catches on 5 targets. And Reed had a straight drop in this game. Those two guys, they were the engine of this offense. 88 yards for Kraft, 78 yards for Reed. No one else had more than 21 for the Packers, and that 21 was Josh Jacobs. So when you have a player the caliber of Jaden Reed who can work the middle of the field like he can, and then you have a player, and he can threaten vertically, he can create down the field, he can do everything you want as a receiver. And then you have a player like Tucker Kraft who gives you everything from a tight end that you want from a blocking standpoint. He is going to be able to be, your de facto pullback or fullback on power plays. He's going to be able to get out on the run, on the move, and make blocks. He's going to be able to chip and release. And on 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 12, everybody's moving down the field and you just dump it off to him underneath. Once a game, it seems like he's going to make a tackle or break a tackle on an underneath throw that becomes a first down. And he reminds me, and I understand that this is a little sacrilegious, but it reminds me of George Kittle. His ability to play, how many tight ends in the league can block as well as he can? Let's just start there. How many tight ends in the league can block as well as he can? Okay, that's a short list. But let's say generously it's 8 guys, it's 10 guys. How many players, how many tight ends could make the catch and run, break a tackle, speed to get downfield, break another half tackle because Dontavian Wicks is getting the block down the field? How many tight ends could have made that play? Okay. Now, what is the Venn diagram of those guys? It's George Kittle, maybe David Njoku. That might be it. That really might be it. Guys that could, I'm sure Jonnu Smith could. I think Tucker Kraft is a better blocker than him. He's not as explosive as Jonnu Smith, but he's a more complete player, a more complete receiver. We're talking about one of the best tight ends in the league. And there is, I think, also some similarities to another Dakota man, Dallas Goedert. A lot of similarities there. I think he's more dynamic after the catch than Dallas Goedert because I think he's got more wiggle. I think he's got better feel in space. Dallas Goedert just wants to run guys over. He's kind of a rumbling guy. Tucker Kraft's a little bit more fluid than that. And so when he's taking the step forward, and then you have Jaden Reed taking a step forward, and you get Christian Watson back healthy, and Romeo Doubs comes back from, whatever he's been going through over the last week. We don't know. We haven't talked about it on this show because we didn't have the information when we last recorded the show. Jason and I reported out what we were hearing and seeing with the Romeo Doubs situation. For those of you who are not up to speed, I don't know how that would be, but we reported over at The Leap that there was a disagreement with Matt LaFleur. He was what was described to us through sources as missing in action, MIA. Thursday at practice, we got the report from Bill Huber, Thursday and Friday he was gone. My understanding is there was an attempt to make some sort of reconciliation there, and then it didn't happen. And that's ultimately what led to the suspension here. But he's going to come back at some point, we expect. And Matt LaFleur said after the game, he expects Romeo Doubs to come back. He said, I'm looking forward to talking to him on Monday. So this is an offense that it's just more weapons now. Emmanuel Wilson looks like a real valuable piece in this offense. Josh Jacobs is creating some chunk runs at opportune times. And although it wasn't, didn't have the best day, 73 yards on 19 carries, there wasn't also a lot to work with. The offensive line did not play great in this game. So you are getting this superlative play, maybe from places you didn't think you were getting it. Now, you expected Xavier McKinney to be good. I don't know that we could have reasonably expected Xavier McKinney to be this good. And he's probably not going to have 17 interceptions on the season. He's not going to get one of these a game. That's okay, because you know what's going to happen? It is going to start deterring teams from wanting to throw the ball vertically. Why are you going to throw the ball deep when you this happened? I know the Ravens are a totally different case, but even when they weren't the Ravens toward the back end of Ed Reed's career, you just could not throw deep without being really worried about what Ed Reed could do back there. And Earl Thomas was the similar way. You just could not throw deep on that team. Now, their pass rush was doing more for them than the Packers are currently getting out of their pass rush. That has to change. That has to change. And right now, I kind of don't know how they're going to change it. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I've talked to you a lot about FanDuel over the years. And right now, because they're America's #1 sports book, this is why they're America's #1 sports book. You can get a hunch in the middle of the game, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. The Packers, 3-point favorites in this one, thanks to a Matthew Stafford incompletion on a 2-point conversion. They don't kick the field goal, or they don't kick the extra point. It ends up being a 24-19 5-point win, as opposed to kicking the extra point. And it is a 23-20 win where it's a push. Good teams win. Great teams cover. And smart people, go to FanDuel.com to get that bonus bet guaranteed right now. Go check it out. And while you're at it, check out the new Locked On NFL. Now for your second listen. We appreciate you being our first listen. Go check out Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Before the Tennessee Titans game, we talked about if the pass rush didn't show up, it's time to be concerned about that group. And then they showed up. 8 sacks. They dismantled the Tennessee Titans. And then against a Rams offensive line that has struggled to pass block all year long. Now, they have been a good run blocking team. And so the Packers, giving up some yardage on the ground, I think to some degree that is to be expected. Their inability to win one-on-ones regularly is a problem. And I'm talking about Rashawn Gary. I'm talking about Preston Smith. We saw Lucas Van Ness a little more in this game. Carl Brooks gets a sack. He and Kobe Wooden share a sack. In the second half, they did get some pressure. The touchdown that the Rams scored at the end, that was very much a we're in prevent kind of situation. But I don't understand that when what you were doing was working all game. Now, they brought some pressure, but it's one thing to bring pressure. It's another thing to bring pressure when you're playing this off zone coverage behind it. Like Matthew Stafford is going to get to his hots. He's going to get to where he needs to get to on some of these pressure looks when he knows the pressure is coming. If he knows he's getting soft zone or off man, he knows where he can get the ball to in a hurry, and he did it regularly. I understand they're not going to get a sack on every play, but they did not get enough pressure on a bad offensive line in this game. Now, that being said, they did hit Matthew Stafford 10 times. So we can't pretend like they did nothing. They did get 3 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. There were some nice pass rush reps. There were some nice plays being made. There were some nice run defensive plays being made. Guys shooting through gaps, although on 4th and 1, Quay Walker has an opportunity to make a tackle and just can't do it. This, if for no other reason than this is why Adrian Cooper has to be out there. Because the play that he makes on Matthew Stafford on a key 3rd down, where he loops off the edge and just slices in and with one hand takes down Matthew Stafford. Those are the kinds of plays his athleticism allows him to make. He is so versatile. You just have to live with whatever you see as his weaknesses. You just kind of have to live with them because no one else on this defense can do what he can. He, to my eyes, is the best off-ball linebacker on this team. I understand Jeff Hafley talking about, Quay Walker is really making strides. I don't see it. He consistently doesn't get enough depth in zone drops, out of position, not making plays on the ball. He must lead the league in tackles made 5 yards after it would have made any difference to make them. He has become the uber athletic Blake Martinez. And I liked, you guys know, everydayers know, I wanted Big Nickel to be the base defense. And I am a little sad knowing already that when Jair Alexander comes back, they will go back to regular nickel with Keyshawn Nixon in the slot. And this is not necessarily a slight against Keyshawn Nixon, who's been fine this year. But I watched Evan Williams make the game-sealing play in coverage. I watched Javon Bullard just seamlessly for a full game as a rookie in week 6 or whatever week it is, week 5, play the nickel, play in the slot. Just like, whatever, this is just what I do, even though he's been a safety all year. And I go, I just know that when Jair Alexander comes back, like, that's going to go out the window. But Evan Williams is a player. And Javon Bullard is a really good football player. And so they have these players that you just need to get on the field more often. And again, if you're not going to get quality linebacker play, the best way to do this is to get Evan Williams on the field more often. He was a really good blitzer at Oregon. It was something he did terrific, in fact. And Edgerrin Cooper is one of the best blitzing linebackers of the last 5 years in the SEC, who could also do other things, someone who wasn't just truly a rush linebacker. He was an elite pass rushing linebacker at Texas A&M last year. As a blitzer in that rookie Devin White mold, we don't have right now, today, we don't have to worry about if he's ever going to be anything more than that. I think he can be. But right now, today, he's the best pass rusher in that linebacker room for sure. And he's been the most dynamic in terms of creating pressures and opportunities with his blitz looks. So from that standpoint, I feel like he just has to be out there. He just has to be out there. And I don't know what you have to see from these guys. Okay, maybe you don't think he can wear the green dot. So what? Xavier McKinney can wear the green dot. Problem solved. Get your best players on the field. And so we can move on from the Keyshawn Nixon discussion. I thought he did fine. I think it's interesting that when they went to their rotations in the cornerback room with Eric Stokes and Carrington Valentine available, that it wasn't a boundary corner rotation with the 3 of them. It was Keyshawn Nixon is playing on as one boundary corner, and one of Stokes and Valentine is playing on the other. I thought that was an interesting wrinkle. They just think Valentine and Stokes are not as good as Keyshawn Nixon as the boundary corner, which is wild to me. It's wild to me. But that's the decision that they've made. And so, okay, that's fine. Evan Williams, he needs to play. I would rather have Evan Williams on the football field than Isaiah McDuffie, and I don't know that it's particularly close. So it's one of those things where I don't know what more they need to see. And I feel like I've been saying this every week. And we'll see what the final numbers say. It felt like anecdotally, Edgerrin Cooper played more than we're used to seeing him play. But how do you balance that with getting Evan Williams on the field? How do you balance that with getting Javon Bullard on the field so that you don't have to take Javon Bullard off the field? That's what I want to know. And so I was very confused. You have Javon Bullard. He's been your starting safety all year long over Evan Williams. Now you've switched his role a little bit to put him in the slot. And when you're playing traditional defense, he's not your safety. He's off the field. Again, this is sort of what happened in the Colts game where I was just like, okay, get Evan Williams on the field more, but don't do it to take Javon Bullard off the field. Javon Bullard's really good. And if you think Evan Williams is this good, find a way to consistently get them all on the field at once. And I know that we've gotten a little far afield from the pass rush conversation, but it all works hand in hand. And I do think they need to be more aggressive. They're going to need to blitz a little bit more, or at least show more simulated pressures. Do a little bit more of what Minnesota is doing, where they're showing, 7-man pressures, and then you're dropping out. And you may only bring 4, but you're bringing a 4th off the edge, and you're getting a little zone drop with a defensive lineman. Remember, Aaron Mosby in the preseason got an interception on exactly a play like that. I think there's more to be done there while these guys get a little bit more comfortable playing. I thought Rashawn Gary played, and this is a low bar, but I thought he played his best game of the year as a pass rusher in this game. Kenny Clark, he got a pressure where they didn't even block him. I'm still waiting for him to assert his will on these football games. I'm still willing to give the defense as a whole some time. But this pass rush, there needs to be more urgency. Like, there are ways to scheme up pass rush. Like the Baltimore Ravens last year did not have any superlative individual pass rushers, but they were able to scheme up pressure with regularity because of simulated pressures, because of the versatility of their players, and the different ways that they deploy their guys. The Packers have the talent to do this. They just have not, they've not really found the right blend here. And if Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp played in this game, I don't know how you can be confident that the Packers would have won it, because the defense is just not playing well enough right now. Like the offense, Jordan Love's coming back, and Christian Watson is going to be back at some point, and Josh Jacobs is getting more comfortable in this offense. And the offensive line, remember, Sean Ryan is new to this group, and Rasheed Walker, who has not been great to start the season, is also played less than, or started less than 10 games in his NFL career. Did you know that? He's not even played a full NFL season yet. So they're still finding some coalescing that needs to be done. You win a game where you don't play your best football against a desperate team on the road. Look around the league. And the 49ers lost to the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals are a great team, but things happen. And that's just like, this is the league. And it's hard to win on the road anywhere. Getting a win, crucial. They're 3-2. Now you're on to next week, and you have a chance to get a little bit better. I don't want to devolve into coach speak, but I think the opportunities for them to get better are there. They're there. But they need to play better to get to ultimately where they want to go. They made enough plays. To win this game. They're going to need to make more if they want to make noise in the NFC. All right, back tomorrow with more Locked On Packers. Like I said, we're going to have clips from the locker room, from Jordan Love, from Matt LaFleur, from Xavier McKinney, from Dontavian Wicks. A lot of good stuff coming. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube so you can come hang out with us live after the game like we're doing right now, so you can stay Locked On Packers.